Coming up today, President Park Geun-hye will address the National Assembly this week to ask for lawmakers' support in the wake of North Korea's recent nuclear test and long-range missile launch. South Korea raises its military cyber threat level in response to growing concerns Pyongyang could be preparing a cyber attack on the south. First former Olympic champion Lee Seung-hoon wins gold in the mass start event at the Speed Skating World Championships in Russia. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, February 15th here in Seoul. Thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye will address the National Assembly this week on North Korea's recent provocations. The leaders of the nation's main rival parties on Sunday accepted the president's request to speak at the Assembly on Tuesday morning. Officials say she will likely stress the need for national unity and seek cooperation from lawmakers on bolstering national security in light of the increased tension on the Korean peninsula. President Park is also expected to urge the swift passage of related bills, including one on counter-terrorism initiatives and another on North Korea's human rights. The president could meet with the leaders of the two main rival parties after her speech. Now, South Korea has raised its military information surveillance status in response to the growing threat of cyber terrorism from North Korea. Citing a military official, Seoul-based Yonhap news agency reports that South Korea upgraded its Information Operation Condition, or INFOCON, believing there's a greater possibility North Korea could launch cyber attacks. The 5-tier system is used by the military to defend against computer network attacks. It was raised to level 4 following Pyongyang's nuclear test last month, and now, a little over a week after the North's long-range missile launch, it has been raised to level 3. The official said there have been no hacking attempts against the Defense Ministry or armed forces, but the higher alert level is being maintained to watch for signs of such attacks. US defense officials are increasingly concerned about North Korea's long-range missile capability. A Pentagon report has reaffirmed fears a North Korean ICBM could reach the US mainland. The regime has yet to flight test the weapon, though. Oh Soo-young with the details.
If North Korea's push to develop a road-mobile intercontinental ballistic missile is successful, it would represent the biggest threat thus far to the US homeland from Pyongyang. That's according to a new Pentagon report released on Friday that reaffirms earlier analysis. The new report assumes the missile has already been deployed, and it is estimated to have a range of more than 10,000 kilometers, which puts much of the US mainland well within its reach. Also, its mobility could make the KN-08 difficult to track, posing an even greater threat to US mainland security, according to the Pentagon report. US security officials expressed their concerns on the matter last week.
North Korea's nuclear weapons program and evolving ballistic missile programs are a continuing threat. North Korea also continues its effort to expand its stockpile of weapons-grade fissile material.
James Searing, director of the Missile Defense Agency, also remarked that the United States' decision to increase the number of ground-based missile interceptors in Alaska and California by 2017 was made to counter the possible threat from the KN-08. North Korea first unveiled a missile at a military parade in 2012 and showed it again in 2013. However, the Pentagon report states that the full-fledged development of an ICBM requires numerous flight tests, and the North doesn't seem to have conducted any so far. Meanwhile, as part of defense measures against the North's latest long-range missile launch last Sunday, the United States has deployed additional Patriot missiles to Ulsan Air Base, which is located south of Seoul. The missile system can intercept both short-range missiles and longer-range models such as Scud and Rodong missiles. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, Vice Foreign Ministers from South Korea and China will hold talks this week to discuss pending issues between the two countries. Seoul's Vice Foreign Minister Im Sung-nam will meet with his Chinese counterpart Zhang Ye-su on Tuesday in Seoul as the two sides decide what steps should be taken against North Korea following its recent provocations. The two sides will also discuss other political, regional and international issues surrounding the Korean peninsula. Seoul and Washington's decision to begin negotiations for the deployment of an advanced U.S. missile defense system called THAAD is also expected to be a hot topic. China is opposed to its deployment, saying it would destabilize the security situation in the region. Now, the South Korean government has moved to reassure South Korean factory owners who had to suddenly pack up and leave the inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex that they'll be taken care of during this turbulent period. Now, during a special meeting on Sunday, South Korean Finance Minister Yoo Il-ho pledged all-out support for the businesses. Here's what he had to say.
The government is working to come up with measures to help them, including an injection of emergency relief funds and an extension of the deadline for outstanding loan payments.
Now, Minister Yoo also called on Seoul's business community to chip in as well, as government measures alone will not be enough to help the Kaesong firms get back onto their feet. The meeting was attended by a number of high-ranking government officials, including the Trade Minister and the Chairman of the Financial Services Commission. Now, staying on a Kaesong-related note, an evidence has emerged that shows the majority of the wages paid to North Korean workers at the inter-Korean industrial complex was used for the regime's weapons development programs. Seoul says the normalization of the operations at the factory park hinges on Pyongyang's next move. Kim Min-ji with the details.
70% of the money that's paid to North Korean workers at the Kaesong industrial complex has been used to develop nuclear weapons and missiles. That's according to South Korea's unification minister Hong Yong-pyo, who says the money was transferred to the ruling Workers' Party for weapons development or to purchase luxury goods. Hong said that workers at Kaesong are paid in cash, but instead of going straight to the workers, the money goes to the North Korean government. In an appearance on South Korean television, Hong said the park was not shut down when such activities were first detected due to the significance and positive impact of keeping the factory complex, a symbol of inter-Korean cooperation, open. He said this time, however, the North was revving up its weapons development activities and stern action was needed to address the growing security concerns. Earlier in the day, the Unification Ministry released a statement with similar details, saying it had received reports from multiple channels claiming that workers' wages had been funneled into the North's ruling party after similar concerns were raised on Friday.
There are rising concerns that North Korea has been using money earned through Kaesong to develop weapons of mass destruction. The South Korean government has collected several pieces of evidence regarding this.
The minister said that no significant movements have been detected in the factory zone since South Korean workers were expelled and all South Korean assets were frozen. Saying the shutdown will probably hurt North Korea more in relative terms, Hong said the government is reviewing various support measures for the South Korean factory owners and their staff. Over 120 South Korean firms were operating in the complex, which employed some 54,000 North Korean workers. The minister said the shutdown is intended to teach North Korea a lesson, and only when Pyongyang shows its willingness to address the concerns of South Korea and the world will discussions on normalizing operations at Kaesong take place. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea and the European Union have agreed on the need for stronger sanctions on North Korea. Seoul's foreign ministry says a consensus came during a meeting over the weekend between Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and EU Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini. Minister Yoon is currently in Germany seeking support from countries participating in the Munich Security Conference on stronger action against the North. Mogherini said the EU is currently examining ways to toughen its own sanctions on Pyongyang. The South Korean minister also met with his German and Egyptian counterparts, both of whom agreed on the need for stronger and more effective measures. Now, the number of top South Korean goods in the global export market shrank slightly in 2014. According to the Korea International Trade Association, the number of Korean products with the largest share of the global export market came to 64, down from 65 the previous year. Export market share only considers the proportion of a given product to the total amount shipped across borders, whereas global market share views the proportion of a given product from a country in the context of the total amount sold globally. South Korea added 17 new #1 products to the list, while 18 others lost their top spot. In 2014, China had the largest number of #1 products in the world's export market. Now in sports news, more medals for South Korea at this year's World Single Distances Speed Skating Championships in Russia. Veteran skater Lee Seung-hoon grabbed the gold in the mass start event, becoming the first Asian in history to win that title. The former Olympic champion finished first in a time of 7 minutes, 18.26 seconds, edging a Dutch rival by 0.06 seconds. Now with this victory, Lee has cemented his position as a leading gold medal contender for the mass start at the 2018 Pyongyang Winter Olympics, which will take place in his home country. Short track skater Kim Bo-rum took the silver medal at the women's mass start, just 0.13 seconds behind the winner. Korea's No Do-hee took her first singles gold medal at the 1,000-meter World Cup speed skating event. That is a separate event that happened in the Netherlands. Now, more and more people are paying with cards rather than cash these days. In fact, some countries in Europe are already on track to becoming completely cashless societies. And will that eventually make cash obsolete? And where does Korea stand in the mix? Hwang Jie has the details.
Digital transactions are quickly replacing cash in Sweden, where even street vendors carry card readers. In fact, 8 out of 10 major banks in the country no longer dispense or take cash. Children have pocket money transferred into their accounts and they pay for things using debit cards, while adults seem to embrace the idea of having a cashless society.
Going cash-free would be good for preventing crime.
Korea is seeing similar changes. Last year, card payments accounted for 39% of all payments in the country, beating out cash transactions, which were at 36%. And money transfers have been made easier than ever with the introduction of smartphone banking apps. On top of that, the Bank of Korea has announced a plan to get rid of coins by 2020. With these technological developments and the potential benefits of cashless societies, paper money and coins may soon become a thing of the past. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Now, despite warnings, it's still fairly common to see people bouncing a crying baby up and down slightly to get them to stop or to go to sleep. Now, if you're one of them, you should proceed with care, because recent studies show if a baby is shaken too hard, it can result in permanent damage or even, in the worst case scenario, death. Park Se-young has the details.
When caring for a crying baby, shaking the baby too hard can cause what's known as shaken baby syndrome. If a baby is forcefully shaken, the brain moves back and forth inside the skull, causing bruising, swelling, and bleeding. It usually occurs when frustrated parents or caregivers severely shake a crying baby. Shaken baby syndrome happens most often in infants up to 1 year, with babies under 6 months being most at risk.
The symptoms are quite vague. The baby can seem limper and more irritable than usual and have a small appetite. Some clear signs would be altered consciousness and seizures.
When driving with young children, they must be seated in baby car seats to stay protected from sudden stops and bumpy rides. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, it's pretty cold in Korea this morning, but residents in the northeastern United States have been shivering under some of the coldest temperatures on record. In Boston on Sunday, the mercury tumbled to minus 23 degrees Celsius. And it was even colder with the wind chill. Officials warn people to stay indoors as frostbite could set in on exposed skin within minutes. As you can see, the streets are pretty much empty. Residents were also encouraged to check up on their elderly relatives and neighbours. Fortunately for people in that area, temperatures in Boston are forecast to rise to -2 degrees Celsius on Monday. Well, that's all we have for you on this Monday morning here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we do hope your week is off to a wonderful start. We'll be back throughout the day with many more newscasts. Until then, goodbye.